Notre Dame falls to Ohio State 34-23. Your thoughts on the game and recapping this game. How did you see it being played out, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, why don't we start here with Ohio State and start with them because they're the victor and it was a tremendous performance. I think the most amazing part about all this is that Ryan Day fought through so much adversity this year. I think everybody thought that this was unaccomplishable after what happened against Michigan. The fact that Ryan Day had this team so prepared and so locked in situations and in the most important plays, that play where they converted and threw the ball to Jeremiah Smith is an example of that. They needed execution and they executed. They converted. They finished. This season was unlike anything that I think we've ever seen in college football. They have been able to do and outperform every expectation that was put out for them after the Oregon loss, after that Michigan loss. And I think what came to fruition in this game, Blake, is what you said. They were so much more talented. They are not so much more, but they were more talented. They had more athletes, and Quinshon Judkins took over and Will Howard took over on the ground. And he was tactile. He was very poised and accurate and consistent as a passer. All of that set them up. The huge first half was enough to carry them into winning this game, even when they slowed down a little bit in the fourth quarter.
Well, I think there's multiple things. Joe, I did a massive rant about this earlier today, and a massive rant about this on Thursday. 2024 could be a microcosm, but it's not just a microcosm because it happened in 2023 with Michigan as well. Also happened with Alabama getting into the playoff. The team that can line up and run the football is going to win the football game. We keep being enamored by wide receivers and quarterbacks and all this kind of stuff. And I want to talk about Ohio State. Look, man, you had a beat-up offensive line. The best center in the country, he's out. And you had a shuffle. And quite frankly, it was a big reason why I feel like you fell a little bit late. You had massive injuries along your offensive line. But you rallied. After the Michigan loss, you refocused. And, Joe, quite frankly, over the last 4 games that we've seen from this Ohio State team, I told you after the Tennessee game, when I saw defenders running up to Will Howard after making an exceptional throw, a vibe shifted for that team. Now, you have a lot of old players. Joe, think about this. Outside of Caleb Downs, everybody on that defense has been there for 3 years plus. They have an older veteran group. They have one of the more talented groups. All year long, we looked at Ohio State and continue to talk offense, 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 offense. That's not the case that I want to bring up here. Joe, that's one of the better defensive teams that we've seen. Okay, now I know that the first drive they got bullied around, but, man, once the game got going, for the next 30 minutes of that game, they flat out dominated. So much so, Notre Dame during the game, Joe, they're 5 for 12 on third down. 4 of those third downs were 3 of those third downs of the 5 that they converted was on the first overall drive. Riley Leonard had to hit 2 late in the fourth quarter to get back into the game. Joe, every single thing that Notre Dame tried to throw after that first drive at Ohio State, they physically dominated. Joe, they had 53 yards. At rushing, meaning Notre Dame. That goes to what we've continuously seen in these games. Now, I tweeted this to you a week ago today. Do you remember what it was? We talked about the statistical stuff that goes on in the running game, and how Ohio State is only allowing 60 yards per rush in these playoffs. Joe, they gave up 53 tonight. The front seven has dominated. I know the first drive happened, and everybody will say, well, what about the first drive? Joe, think about this. They ran the ball for 75 yards in the first quarter. 75 yards in the first quarter. Ultimately is what Notre Dame had. Joe, they ended with 53. Jeremiah Love was a non-factor. Price was a non-factor. They bottled up everybody. Now, late in the game, the receivers got some separation and made some big plays along with Mitchell Evans. But everybody during the entire season, we've brought this up a lot, or I brought it up a lot. Everybody talks about Ohio State offensively. Tonight, defensively, I thought that they were suffocating in so many spots. Secondly, Joe, I mean, we're talking about a team that in Ohio State that struggled to run the football a month ago. Literally. They could not run the ball to save their life. And we did not know the direction that they would go in. And then you went in the portal last offseason. And all the shit that got brought up by Quinshon Judkins, Joey had 11 carries for 100 yards and absolutely dominated. That's why you're Ohio State and you go and spend the money. Caleb Downs in the red zone making a big play. That's why you go and spend the money. I don't give two Rudy Poos. Everybody, that's what a $20 million roster's, that's what it's supposed to do. You're damn right it's what's supposed to do. And they did it. They were the most talented team from the beginning. I don't care about their mess ups and their slip ups. At the end of all of this, the best team won. The most talented team in the country won. I got to say this, and I know you're not going to agree. I think Will Howard was the best quarterback for this team, because the experience level that he brought in crucial situations, along with the offensive coordinator who likes a quarterback that can run, was good for them. It was great for them. You talked about Will Howard taking over with his legs in the second half. Joey converted in the third quarter. Three of their third downs that they converted came on his legs. They went 9 of 12 on third down and key money downs. That's why they continue to separate. Most talented team in the country, man, just won tonight. It doesn't matter the opponent. And look, I clown you a lot. The opponent doesn't matter. The most talented team won, okay? It was always going to come down to that after that Tennessee game when we saw them. The final thing that I would bring up here, I do think Ohio State got a little too conservative in the second half that allowed Notre Dame to come back. They almost could not finish, but they did. And, man, I know we'll talk about this too. Ryan Day's over that hump now. There ain't shit you can say about him. He's a national contending head coach, and he's won one.
That's where I wanted to take this. One of the things that I've found really interesting, we don't really talk about this enough in football, but it's something, if you listen to any NBA discourse, they talk about this a lot. One of the things that was discussed a ton when the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship this past year was how they learned how to lose. They learned how to get to an NBA championship game and lose, and they knew how to internalize that, and they knew how to stare down adversity better by losing. We've done plenty of yelling about Ryan Day on this show. And heck, I have even gone as far as to say that it might make sense for them to mutually part ways in order for this to end up working. But I think that what we learned here and the unexpected bounce back that happened after the Michigan game that sparked all of this.
Wait,
let me finish.
To really interrupt you, you didn't expect this? You didn't think that they could do this?
After the Michigan game?
Yeah, I mean,
you thought after the Michigan game that they could have gone on this run and played this well? No. I don't think anyone realistically thought that after the way that they played against Michigan that they were going to be able to bounce back. But to what I'm saying here, though, Blake, and what I was getting at, I think that there's something that needs to be said about head coaches getting to national championships and falling short. You need to do it before you can actually win one. You need to get close and sniff just like what it would feel to win, to see another team celebrating after a national championship. And I think that Ryan Day, for as intense as he is, that's been his downfall at times, was why they were able to succeed here, why they were able to finally finish and get the job done. That's where this all comes into play. And Ryan Day deserves the biggest amount of credit for all of this, for getting his team ready, despite a sloppy game against Texas, for them to finish against Texas, and then to carry that into this game against Notre Dame and not even look back. That's where Ryan Day deserves every ounce of recognition. We can commend and congratulate Quinshon Judkins and Will Howard and Chip Kelly and all these guys that had big games today. But Ryan Day does need to be acknowledged as being the MVP. He is the one who got the job done despite so much doubt from his own fan base that thought that he shouldn't and wouldn't even get it done, so much so that they were selling tickets to Tennessee fans going into that game. That is where the recognition needs to be acknowledged, and the narrative is completely shifted for him in his favor.
I'll get to that in a minute. I think the game plan that he had in the game, especially in the first half, they absolutely executed. Joe, Notre Dame did not have any. We talked about this so much in the buildup about what is Ohio State going to do on the perimeter in the running game, right? Like the first play from scrimmage, Henderson counter outside, right behind left tackle, right in the 7 hole. Let's go, baby, and they continue to do it. So much so in the first half, you have a play where you're going fake counter. First off, this is why you needed to send pressure on them. Why you didn't, it was stupid by Notre Dame. Fake counter, fake receiver come end around, and then you throw it to Jeremiah Smith in the flat and man-on-man coverage for a touchdown. Joe, it was brilliant, man. And I thought that they, for what it's worth, when they gave up the early score, they bounced right back. Like they had been in, and it's so interesting that you bring it up to this too. This team had faced adversity throughout the season, and Ryan Day had faced adversity through the 5 seasons that he had, 5 seasons that he had been the head coach. And they finally knew, and he knew what to do to overcome here. Now, there were some things at the end in the fourth quarter that I'm sure that he wishes that he would have back, but it doesn't matter. He's a national champion. Joe, it's interesting we talk about coaches, and I asked this on Twitter or X, is Ryan Day overrated? I'm astonished by the comments here. People saying, yeah, he's always overrated. That's what a $20 million roster is supposed to. No, he's a national champion winning head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And look, he's going to be one of only a handful of guys that's actively head coaches that's won national titles. Him, Kirby Dabo. That's it. That's literally
insane. It's insane to consider.
No, it's not insane. You know why it's not insane? Because the guys that constantly get there are going to win one. Eventually, it's going to happen. I mean, like,
well, I'm saying it's insane that, like, it's insane. I'm saying it's insane to consider how small that group is, and Ryan Day is now in that group.
He's in the group. So I look at Ohio State. Look, they had a vision. They went and got Chip Kelly, Caleb Downs, Quinshot Judkins. All of them, you talk about the MVP being Ryan Day. You're right, but it's in a different way. The different way is you got one of the best play callers in the country on offense and defense. You needed to fix defense. You went and got the best defense, one of, if not the best defensive coordinator in the country, one of the best offensive play callers. You went and got the best running back in the portal, and you wanted to run the football. Hell yeah. You went and got the best center. God forbid Seth McLaughlin does not go down. Then what? So, Joe, they had a vision. They wanted it more than anybody in the offseason. Their actions of guys coming back, their actions in the portal, their actions in recruiting prove that. You're right. Ryan Day is the MVP because of how he did it. Now, I got to admit, I'll say this, and I've been waiting to – I know you're not going to agree, but it is what it is. Even going out and getting an experienced quarterback after – taking the flack of who Will Howard was. Joe, it's a big move. It's a risky move, but he saw something that others didn't see. I mean, Joe, you're talking about a kid that had 24 touchdowns and 10 interceptions a year ago. He had 17 total turnovers a year ago, and then he's winning a national championship a year later. I mean, everything that they did hit on.
I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I don't disagree, but I also just don't think
you can't ignore a kid coming into a national title game going 16 of 16 to start off a game, and then we're just thinking that the kid played bad. Not only did he not play remotely bad, Joe, that's one of the better halves in a national title game that we've ever seen.
Ever. No, it's an amazing performance, and I'm not going to sit here and discredit it. Will Howard played amazing. All I've been trying to say, and what keeps getting missed in me making this argument, and why I don't like rehashing it, because nobody wants to actually listen to the words that I'm saying, particularly the Ohio State fans, and Elks loves to keep coming at me with this and trolling me with this, which, I appreciate it. All I have said is that on a roster like this, with a better offensive play caller in Chip Kelly, with improved receiver talent and a deeper running back room and all this stuff, I just didn't think that, I thought that Kyle McCord could have succeeded in this situation. I just don't want to go to that, because this isn't about Kyle McCord. It's about Will Howard playing really well. It's about Ryan Day and Chip Kelly putting out an amazing offensive performance. That's why I don't think it's worth recognizing at the current.
All right, well, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Outside of J.J. McCarthy, is there any quarterback in the last decade that didn't have a number one receiver that won a national title as a quarterback? Because I look at Georgia having Brock Bowers, who broke the tight end record. I look at Joe Burrow having Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I look at Mac having Devonta Smith, who won the Heisman. I understand what you're saying, but if we're being frank here, okay, all of these quarterbacks that are winning national titles do have a first-round dude that they throw the ball to consistently. Now, that's going to be Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, but like that's not really what I'm getting at, though. I'm just trying to say that this is a really good situation for most quarterbacks.
What I'm saying is, just because he's got first-round weapons doesn't mean that he didn't play exceptionally well.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. That's why I don't like. I just think it's kind of a moot point where the recognition needs to go to him for him dominating and being as phenomenal as he was. He played great in this game. He played to his assignment. He did exactly what he did. That's why I don't want to revisit my offseason takes about him and Kyle McCord.
In reference to Ohio State in this game in their season, man, look, this one's got to be a little bit sweeter, Joe. You know why?
Why?
Because not only did you lose to Michigan in the regular season, but they were the reigning defending national champions, and you got one back on them. I mean, it's a big flex. I'm just being honest. I mean, like Ryan Day, Joe. Think about this. Imagine your biggest rival beating you multiple times, them winning a national title, and you thinking at the end of the second time that they beat you, meaning this regular season, that you might need to fire your head coach. He went from rags to riches. Joe, they were ready to pull the plug. Right. I mean, it's absolutely insane of what can happen in a month.
Well, here's one thing. Is a very problematic question. And I know that we're trying to be congratulatory, and we are. I don't want to look this far ahead, but like, what do you think the conversation is going to be like if they theoretically lost to Michigan again next year?
Can I be real with you?
It obviously doesn't ruin this moment, but it just feels weird. Wouldn't it?
Sure. Does it matter? By the way, Ohio State's the only other champion to win a national title in the modern era with multiple losses outside of LSU.
So the reason why I'm bringing up that point to the question that you, or the statement that you just posed about Michigan and them getting one back after Michigan just won one and them kind of leveling the playing field, I just think it illustrates this really toxic, weird relationship that they obviously have with Michigan. Oh, like, I would really hope that Ohio State fans are not framing it that way. I think nationally, you and I will frame it that way, but I hope that Ohio State fans are looking at this like, right. I mean, I would be more focused on the national title than I would be thinking about Michigan.
If I told you that Notre Dame would win a national title, but you got to lose to your biggest rival, would you do it?
Yeah, for us to lose to USC. Yeah, I mean, also Michigan used to be a big rival of ours.
Dog walk us for all I give a shit. You're the national champion.
Right. That's what I know. That's the whole point of what I'm discussing here.
Yeah, screw that. They can say whatever they want. I don't give two Rudy Poos. You're the national champion. That's all that matters in the end of all of this. You're the natty. You won the natty. That is the goal every single year for a place like Ohio State. Look, it is what it is, but listen, Michigan and Ohio State, back-to-back champions. Amazing season. I mean, it did not come without their issues. Isn't the first time that we've seen a two-time champion in the BCS or playoff area win a national title. And, Joe, this is going to continue to be interesting. You're never out of this thing.